what's happening here. The good news is every bad thing that happens is forming and shaping the populist movement. Every bad thing. In other words, this $1.2 trillion infrastructure disaster has flushed out 13 Benedict Arnolds that are in the Republican Party. This is our problem, people. Our problem is the grassroots is not communicating with your state legislator and with your congressman or congresswoman. Those 13 care more about bringing the pork back to their district than they care about inflation, than they care about crashing the American economy, or they care about Marxism getting a free ride to take over the United States. These are the kinds of people that are surrounded by country club Christians who don't like Trump, who are business people all selfishly padding their wallets. This is what is killing America. We have to remove 60 of these people from the Democrats and at least 13 Republicans. They got to be removed from their committees. They got to be replaced. And you guys ought to know who they are. You could pray for them. You could bless them. And you could pray for a change of mind and a change of heart. But if they continue on without owning the responsibility they have for putting America into a cycle of Great Depression risk, then they need to go, every single one of them. Sad, isn't it? But you know what? They're not as bad as the GOP senators, 19 of them, that backed the $3.5 trillion package of $1.2 trillion of which was approved in this ghastly bill, thanks to the betrayal of 13 congressmen. But the Senate already gave the green light. So it's way it goes. Bye-bye to your money. And like I told you, it's going to the left-wing Democrats and eco-terrorists who are plundering the American taxpayer in order to feed their own feeding frenzy, to build a utopian, carbon-free, no-car, only electric redistribution of wealth in America that will kill our economic recovery, while China, these glorious hypocrites, while China puts 100 new massive coal-producing plants they're being built right now. You know why? Because they're taking over the world economy. They are taking over the world economy while the ditzies in Washington, these rich bankers and lawyers and career politicians with their bureaucrat, buddies, they are tanking America. China has the discipline to pollute the world. By the way, you learn from Wuhan that what comes out of Wuhan will come to your country, while those 100 belching coal manufacturing plants in China, as well as the 100 that India is working on with the 2 billion people they are raising out of poverty and out of lower middle class lifestyles, they're doing their job to make their country prosperous, and that air is coming to America. So we've accomplished nothing by putting further restrictions on America. Besides that, if you really want it, no one's even saying this except me. These activists are all lunatics. It's like a false religion. Because you see, if they really wanted to give Mother Earth a break from carbon monoxide, emissions, what they would do is shut down business and transportation and make people shelter in place and shut off business for a couple of months, maybe a year, and give Earth a Sabbath. That just happened with COVID. Isn't that enough? That shows you how radical these people are. They can shut down your whole economy, your business, take your car away from you, and that still wouldn't satisfy them. They're crazy. GOP senators, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. I'm sorry to say this. Senator Grass, these are the old school. These are the, you know what? Every now and then they get it right, but when it really matters, they get it wrong. This is where the awakening is. We're going to have to raise up a whole new crop of people that love America and don't sell out. That's part of the awakening. You've got to do that, my friend. Because, you want to have a revival, you want to have a move of God, you've got to have a nation to have it in. And believe me, there's never been a revival that happened during war. You know what revivals happen? They happen before or after. Where we're heading now is the equivalent of like war times. When the Great Depression happens, you're not having the Great Revival. You have the Great Revival before or after. So if you really want to see America have revival, you've got to save it. You've got to save it so that it actually has people that got food on the table and peace in the streets. That's why Paul said, pray for rulers and those that are in authority and influential, that we may lead a godly and peaceable life. Because when there's peace on the streets, when there's bread on the table, we can go about doing our job, which we failed to do in America. We could start sharing the gospel in such a way that it actually influences culture rather than just builds ministries. There are lawsuits taking place right now over workplace vaccine rules. And by the way, I want to say this in such a way that it could stay on YouTube. I want my team to know. I want this broadcast on YouTube. You'd be surprised how much stuff I can't put on YouTube. Because YouTube has given me 2 warnings. Got 200,000 people over there, and they said, hey, we don't like the way you're sounding. So, but I'm going to read to you. This is ABC News, okay, YouTube? So don't get nervous on me. The attorney generals of 27 states have filed federal lawsuits challenging a vaccine mandate for employers issued by the Biden administration because the Biden totalitarian overreach of big government demanding that you submit to them because they give you your rights and they can take them away. Somehow forgetting that our whole Declaration of Independence and our Constitution was predicated on the idea that God gives us our freedom, not the Democratic Party. So anyway, that's not the way they think in Canada and Australia. Understand where liberals and progressives are. They're like Marxists. They believe they're smarter than you and that you're stupid and that you need to submit to them for your own sake because the elites are smarter than you and they must subordinate you because you're dangerous. So anyway, so you got healthcare workers and businesses, at the 100 or more employees, they only had 2 months. See, what's happening is you're watching the pilots. Then you saw the disruption happen in Southwest. You saw the Delta Airlines. The CEO said, well, we're going to work out our own deal, government. And American Airlines is suddenly canceling flights and getting them on the road. They're working out behind the scenes to try to keep their pilots. The pilots are showing that the way that you deal with stuff that's unjust is you do your own boycott. You do your own civil disobedience. You just call in on your sick days, 800 at a time. And that shuts down, sends a message. Economics. These guys all worship money, so you got to go touch their money. Anyway, they're putting deadlines on this stuff now, but you've got all these states are pushing back. What I'm talking about now is the states are trying to protect their people because the truckers. You want to talk about a supply problem? You start mandating, which is what they're doing. They're going to OSHA. They're going to go to every organization they've got in the bureaucracy. And they're going to, from the FBI to OSHA to the Department of Homeland Security, they got this bloated beast in Washington will find a way to reach its tentacles into your life and strangle you and force you to comply. So now OSHA is being used to force these smaller businesses. Everyone's got to get into compliance. Well, the truckers, what happens if the truckers decide they're not going to go along with OSHA's enforcement? Well, at a bare minimum, the states are right now pushing back. You know what this is? ABC's article here. Lawsuits over workplace vaccine rule focus on states' rights. See that word, states' rights? Who would have thought that it would be Florida and Texas? It's like, they're flying out of Canada. They're flying out of Australia, Christians, to get the heck out of there because they're being persecuted. They're coming to America. And where America's going? Texas and Florida. What you got to catch is we're living in the era where territories are under angelic covering or demonic infestation, and where the Christians are actually not only praying, but they're occupying the levers of power and influencing and infiltrating the arena of government, education, and business. They're actually shaping and reforming their territories. It's like Europe during the Reformation. You're seeing certain states that are rebelling against the empire, which at that time was the Catholic Church, and in this time it's the Progressive Church, and with their woke theology and their high priesthood. So the states are pushing back. We're coming down to the states' rights battle. It's interesting. It's almost like people talk about a civil war. Well, the first phase of a civil war, like our last one, is when the states and the federal government face off. Except in this war, the states are right and the federal government is acting like the devil. But that's all good news. It's good news because the awakening is beginning. Do you know the information world is so strange right now? I've actually got a team of people to flag me on what I cannot say and what I can say, simply because whether it's Facebook or YouTube or another platform, there's a certain kind of restriction on what you could say. That's why I decided, all right, I'll do what I can on these platforms, but I've got to speak the truth. And I do that on a podcast. Right now, it's the Wild West still. You could say what you're thinking on a podcast, and I haven't been taken down. So you want to go to lancewallnut.com/podcast and find out why it is that our prophetic perspective on the news has moved us to one of the top 30, 40, or 50, it rotates, news podcasts in the United States. I'm just excited that we're down there in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. We're always going to be there because we're there speaking the truth and people want to know the truth. lancewallnut.com/podcast. That's where I'm putting the juice right